Hollowbrook, Pennsylvania was the kind of town people moved to escape fear. With a population of just 8,047, it prided itself on unlocked doors, familiar faces, and a spotless history. No murders, no kidnappings, not a single missing person for 127 years. Generations grew up believing nothing truly bad could happen there, but in October 2019 that belief collapsed without warning. A woman vanished in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, leaving behind a warm cup of coffee and a life mid-sentence. Days later, a teenage girl disappeared between a movie theater and a parked car. Then a child vanished from her own backyard, another from her bedroom while her parents slept. No screams, no witnesses, no evidence of force, just absence. As fear spread and the town turned on itself, investigators uncovered a truth far more disturbing than a serial predator. Hollowbrook wasn't experiencing something new. It was reliving something old, something buried beneath its streets, waiting patiently for October to come again. Before we dive into this chilling tale, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss our weekly horror stories. Hollowbrook, Pennsylvania, population 8,247. The kind of town where everyone knows everyone, where doors remain unlocked, and where the most exciting news is usually about the annual fall festival or high school football scores. For 127 years, this picturesque town nestled in the Allegheny foothills had never recorded a single missing person case. That perfect record shattered on October 3, 2019. 7-year-old Emma Patterson left Hollowbrook Elementary School at 3:15 p.m., just like any other Thursday. Her mother, Jennifer Patterson, a real estate agent known throughout town for her bright smile and active participation in the PTA, was supposed to pick her up. But Jennifer never arrived. When the school secretary, Mrs. Helen Kovach, tried calling Jennifer's cell phone at 3:45 p.m., it went straight to voicemail. Emma waited on the school steps, her pink backpack beside her, swinging her legs and humming a song from music class. By 4:15 p.m., Mrs. Kovach brought Emma inside and tried Jennifer's home phone, her office, and even her husband's work number. Nothing. David Patterson, Emma's father, rushed from his accounting firm in a panic he'd never known before. But Emma wasn't the concern. Not yet. When David arrived home at 5:30 p.m., expecting to find Jennifer there with some explanation, he found their house exactly as they'd left it that morning. Jennifer's coffee mug sat half full on the kitchen counter, still faintly warm. Her laptop was open on the dining room table, a half-written email to a client frozen on the screen. Her purse hung on its usual hook by the door. Her car keys sat in the ceramic bowl where she always left them. Jennifer Patterson had simply vanished. Chief Robert Marsh, a 32-year veteran of the Hollowbrook Police Department, had never worked a missing person case. That first night, he sat in his office, the fluorescent lights humming above him, staring at Jennifer's photo on his desk. She was smiling, always smiling in every picture the family had provided. He didn't know it yet, but this photo would be the first of many that would soon cover his office walls. The investigation began immediately. Officers canvassed the neighborhood. Jennifer's morning routine was well documented. She'd dropped Emma at school at 8:20 a.m., stopped at Rosie's Diner for her usual vanilla latte at 8:35 a.m., and arrived at her real estate office at 9:00 a.m. Her colleague, Marcus Chen, reported that she'd been in good spirits, excited about closing a deal on a property that afternoon. Jennifer had left the office at 2:45 p.m., telling Marcus she needed to pick up some papers from home before getting Emma. The drive from her office to her house was exactly 7 minutes. She should have been home by 2:52 p.m. She never arrived. At least no one saw her arrive. What Chief Marsh found most disturbing was the absence of anything. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no witnesses, no traffic camera footage because Hollowbrook didn't have traffic cameras, no cell phone pings after 2:44 p.m., when her phone apparently died or was turned off somewhere on the route between her office and home. It was as if Jennifer Patterson had driven into thin air. The town mobilized. Within 24 hours, search parties combed through the surrounding woods. Volunteers distributed flyers. The local news picked up the story. David Patterson appeared on television, his face haggard, begging for information. Emma, too young to fully understand, asked every morning when Mommy was coming home. By October 10th, 7 days after Jennifer's disappearance, the investigation had gone cold. No leads, no ransom demands, no body. Just questions that multiplied in the dark like bacteria. And then, on October 11th, it happened again. 14-year-old Sophia Martinez was a straight-A student, captain of the junior varsity soccer team, and had never missed her 10 p.m. curfew, not once. Her parents, Miguel and Rosa Martinez, ran the town's only authentic Mexican restaurant, and Sophia often helped them close up shop on Friday nights. October 11th was a Friday. Sophia had asked if she could go to the movies with 3 friends after the football game. Miguel, after the usual parental interrogation about who would be there and who was driving, agreed. Sophia texted her mother at 10:47 p.m. "Movie running late. Will be home by 11:30. Love you." That was the last anyone heard from her. Her friends, all accounted for and later cleared by police, reported that Sophia had been with them until 10:52 p.m. They'd all walked out of the Hollowbrook cinema together, laughing about the horror movie they'd just watched. The irony would later seem cruel. Sophia's friend, Tasha Williams, remembered Sophia saying she needed to use the restroom before the drive home. Sophia walked back inside the cinema's lobby. She was never seen walking out. Miguel Martinez arrived at the cinema at 11:45 p.m. after Sophia didn't answer her phone. The theatre manager, a college student named Brandon Hayes, helped him search the building. They found Sophia's phone in the women's restroom, sitting on the edge of the sink. The screen showed her mother's 17 missed calls. Chief Marsh arrived at the scene at 12:15 a.m. As he stood in that restroom, staring at the phone that seemed placed rather than dropped, a cold realization washed over him. This wasn't a coincidence. This was something else, something that had come to Hollowbrook. The town erupted in fear. Parents pulled their children from school. Women refused to go anywhere alone. The hardware store sold out of locks and security cameras within 48 hours. Town meetings devolved into shouting matches about what the police were doing and why they hadn't found Jennifer Patterson yet. But Chief Marsh was noticing something that made his blood run cold every time he reviewed the case files. Both women had vanished during transitions. Jennifer between her office and home, Sophia between the movie theater and her car. Both had disappeared in those brief, unremarkable moments when people are neither here nor there. Both had left behind personal items, Jennifer her entire purse, Sophia her phone, as if they'd meant to return in just a moment. Both had simply stepped out of existence. On October 15th, Chief Marsh requested help from the Pennsylvania State Police. Detective Sarah Chen, a specialist in missing persons cases, arrived in Hollowbrook that afternoon. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who had worked cases from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. She'd seen human trafficking rings, serial killers, and every variation of human cruelty. But as she sat in Chief Marsh's office, reviewing the case files, she felt something she rarely experienced: genuine confusion. "There's no connection," she said, spreading photos across the desk. Jennifer Patterson, 34, married real estate agent, no enemies, financially stable. Sophia Martinez, 14, student, popular, happy home life. Different ages, different backgrounds, different risk profiles. Except they're both female, Chief Marsh added, and they both vanished in Hollowbrook. Detective Chen nodded slowly. "We need to prepare for the possibility that..." The desk phone rang. Chief Marsh answered it, and Detective Chen watched the color drain from his face. "Another one," he whispered. 10-year-old Lily Brennan had disappeared from her own backyard. Lily Brennan's disappearance shattered what little remained of Hollowbrook's composure. Unlike the previous cases, this one had witnesses. Sort of. Lily's father, Thomas Brennan, a contractor who'd lived in Hollowbrook his entire life, had been raking leaves in their front yard at approximately 4:30 p.m. on October 15th. Lily had been playing with their golden retriever, Max, in the fenced backyard. Thomas could hear her laughing, throwing a tennis ball for the dog. He'd even called out to her once, asking if she wanted hot chocolate, and she'd shouted back, "Yes, please, Daddy." That was at 4:47 p.m. Thomas knew because he'd checked his watch, planning to go in and start making the hot chocolate in about 10 minutes once he'd finished the front yard. At 4:53 p.m., Thomas walked through the house to the back door. The yard was empty. The back gate, which had been closed, remained closed. Max sat by the back fence, whining, staring at a spot near the oak tree. Lily was gone. The tennis ball sat in the middle of the yard, as if it had just been dropped mid-throw. This time, the police response was immediate. Detective Chen coordinated a search that involved state police, volunteer firefighters, and over 300 town residents. They searched every inch of the Brennan property, the neighboring woods, the creek that ran behind the houses. Helicopters with thermal imaging flew overhead. Bloodhounds tracked Lily's scent to the oak tree, and then nothing. The dogs circled, confused, unable to pick up the trail beyond that single point. It was as if Lily had been lifted straight up into the air. Detective Chen established a command center in the town hall. The investigation grew from a local concern to a state priority. FBI agents arrived on October 17th. The town, population 8,247, now hosted more law enforcement personnel than it had ever seen. Special Agent Marcus Webb, a behavioral analyst from the FBI's National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, reviewed the cases with a growing sense of unease. He'd worked abductions for 15 years. He knew the patterns. Family members were suspects in 80% of cases, acquaintances in another 15%. Stranger abductions were rare. Multiple stranger abductions in a small town over 2 weeks were statistically nearly impossible. Unless, Agent Webb said during a briefing on October 18th, "We're dealing with someone who lives here, someone who's part of the community." The investigation turned inward. Every registered sex offender within a 100-mile radius was interviewed and cleared. Police began looking at local residents with renewed suspicion. Teachers, coaches, the mailman, the pastor of First Lutheran Church, everyone became a potential suspect. David Patterson, Jennifer's husband, found himself questioned 3 separate times. Miguel and Rosa Martinez sat through interrogations even as they mourned their missing daughter. Thomas Brennan's construction business was scrutinized for any employees with criminal backgrounds. The town began to devour itself with suspicion. On October 20th, Detective Chen made a discovery that changed the direction of the investigation. While reviewing decades of town records, looking for any historical precedent, she found something in an archived newspaper from 1982. The Hollowbrook Gazette, October 15, 1982, local woman missing after church service. The article described the disappearance of Margaret Thorne, a 28-year-old secretary who had vanished after leaving Sunday services at First Lutheran Church. She'd walked to her car, according to witnesses. Her car was found in the church parking lot, keys in the ignition, engine running. Margaret was never seen again. The case had gone unsolved. After 6 months, it was presumed she'd left town voluntarily, though her family insisted she never would have left without a word. Detective Chen dug deeper. She found 2 more cases. 1957, a 16-year-old girl named Catherine Wells, who disappeared walking home from school. 1929, a mother of 3 named Eleanor Hartley, who vanished from the town's general store. All women, all disappeared without a trace, all in October. And all cases had been closed without resolution, the disappearances eventually attributed to women leaving town or meeting with foul play outside Hollowbrook's borders. Every 25 to 30 years, Detective Chen said, spreading the files across the table in front of Chief Marsh and Agent Webb. Someone in this town has been taking women and girls for almost a century. Chief Marsh's hands shook as he looked at the files. But how? How does someone do this for... It can't be the same person. No, Agent Webb agreed. It can't, but it could be the same place, or the same method, or... He paused, reluctant to voice what they were all thinking. The same family. On October 22nd, authorities obtained warrants and began excavating properties owned by families who had been in Hollowbrook for multiple generations. The search focused on large properties with old structures, barns, root cellars, abandoned outbuildings. They found nothing. Well, not nothing. They found the normal detritus of century-old properties, rusted farm equipment, forgotten furniture, decades of accumulated junk. But no bodies, no evidence of imprisonment, no signs of the missing women and girls. By October 25th, 3 weeks after Jennifer Patterson's disappearance, the investigation had reached a breaking point. The media had descended on Hollowbrook like locusts. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, every major outlet ran stories about the vanishing town. True crime podcasters set up camp at the local motel. Conspiracy theorists flooded online forums with theories ranging from serial killers to UFOs to government experiments. And then, on October 26th, 9-year-old Hannah Price disappeared from her bedroom. While her parents slept down the hall, Hannah Price's disappearance broke something fundamental in Hollowbrook's collective psyche. If a child could vanish from her own bedroom while her parents slept mere feet away, then nowhere was safe. No precaution was sufficient. The monster, whatever it was, could reach through locked doors and into the heart of the home itself. Hannah's mother, Carol Price, woke at 2:17 a.m. on October 26th. She later told police she'd been dreaming about water, about drowning, and woke up gasping. Something had felt wrong. She'd walked down the hallway to check on Hannah, as she'd done every night since Lily Brennan's disappearance. Hannah's bedroom door was open. It had been closed when Carol and her husband James had gone to bed. The window was open too, just 3 inches, enough to let in the cold October air, enough to make the curtains flutter like ghosts. Hannah was gone. The most chilling detail came from Hannah's 7-year-old brother Ethan, who slept in the room next door. When police interviewed him, he said he'd heard Hannah talking to someone around midnight. He'd pressed his ear to the wall and heard Hannah's voice, soft and happy, as if she were chatting with a friend. She said, "Okay a lot," Ethan reported, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. "And she laughed. Then I heard her window open, and I thought she was just looking at the stars. She likes to look at stars." "Did you hear another voice?" Detective Chen asked gently. "Did you hear who Hannah was talking to?" Ethan nodded, his small face serious. "The humming person." "Someone was humming?" "Yeah, a song I don't know. It was pretty, though. It made me sleepy." Despite intensive questioning, Ethan couldn't describe the tune or remember anything else. He'd fallen back asleep and hadn't woken until his mother started screaming. The police found no footprints beneath Hannah's window, despite the soft mud from recent rain. No fingerprints on the windowsill, no DNA evidence, no signs of forced entry. The screen had been carefully removed from outside and was found leaning against the house. Agent Webb called in a specialist from the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. Dr. Patricia Voss had consulted on some of the most disturbing cases in FBI history. She arrived in Hollowbrook on October 27th and immediately noticed something that had been overlooked. "Show me where each victim was last seen," she requested. Chief Marsh pulled out a map of Hollowbrook. He'd already marked the locations with red pins: Jennifer Patterson's car route, the movie theatre, the Brennan backyard, and Hannah's house. Dr. Voss studied the map for a long moment, then requested a larger, more detailed map that showed Hollowbrook's layout from its founding. The Historical Society provided one from 1898. "There," Dr. Voss said, tracing her finger along a line that connected all 4 disappearance sites. "They're all along what used to be the town's main water line, the original well system from the 1800s. Detective Chen leaned closer. "Most of those wells were filled in decades ago." "Most," Dr. Voss agreed, "but not all. And the tunnels connecting them, the ones built in the 1920s for the failed water expansion project, those were never properly sealed." A cold silence fell over the room. Hollowbrook's tunnel system was a piece of half-forgotten town history. In 1923, ambitious town planners had begun digging an elaborate network of tunnels to expand the water system and potentially add underground storage. The project had bankrupted the town and was abandoned in 1926. Most residents didn't even know the tunnels existed. Within hours, police obtained the original construction documents from the state archives. The tunnel system was extensive. Nearly 2 miles of passages running beneath Hollowbrook, like a concrete circulatory system. Multiple access points, dozens of branches. And, according to the aged blueprints, several sections that had never been documented in the final reports. On October 28th, a tactical team prepared to enter the tunnels through the main access point behind the old water treatment plant. The entrance, a rusted iron door built into a concrete wall, hadn't been opened in decades. It took 2 officers with cutting torches to break through the chains and locks. The door groaned open, releasing air that smelled of earth and decay and something else, something sweet and wrong, like flowers left too long in a vase. The tactical team descended into darkness, their flashlight beams cutting through air thick with dust and time. The tunnels were exactly as the blueprints indicated. Concrete passages about 6 feet high and 4 feet wide, with side chambers branching off at regular intervals. In the 3rd chamber they explored, they found Jennifer Patterson's purse. The team leader, Officer Mike Rodriguez, radioed back to the surface. "We've got evidence. Continuing search." They found more in the next chamber. Sophia Martinez's soccer jersey, muddy and torn. Then Lily Brennan's tennis ball. Then a small pink hairbrush that Carol Price would later identify as Hannah's. But no bodies, no victims, no signs of where the women and girls had been taken after. After what? After being brought down here. The tunnels stretched on and on. The tactical team mapped them for hours, finding more access points than the blueprints showed. Someone had been using these tunnels. Recently. Fresh footprints in the dust. Modern LED lanterns, battery dead, hanging from hooks. And in one chamber, they found something that made Officer Rodriguez physically recoil. A chair. Just a simple wooden chair, placed in the center of the chamber. Around it, on the concrete floor, someone had drawn a circle in white chalk. Inside the circle, strange symbols that none of them recognized. And beyond the circle, arranged in a careful semicircle, were dozens of photographs. Photographs of women and girls. Some were recent, printed from a computer. Others were old, their edges yellow and cracked. Officer Rodriguez recognized Jennifer Patterson, Sophia Martinez, Lily Brennan, and Hannah Price. But there were others. So many others. Dating back decades by the look of them. In the center of the circle, placed on the chair like an offering, was a single white flower. Fresh, still blooming. "Get everyone down here," Officer Rodriguez said into his radio, his voice shaking. "Get everyone down here now." By the time Detective Chen descended into the chamber at 8:47 p.m., the FBI had already begun documenting everything. Photographers' flashes strobed through the darkness like lightning. The photographs were being carefully removed and catalogued, 47 in total. Dr. Voss crouched by the chalk circle, examining the symbols with a flashlight. "This isn't random," she said. "These are organized, deliberate. This is ritual." "Ritual for what?" Chief Marsh asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Dr. Voss didn't respond immediately. She was staring at the white flower on the chair. "This flower shouldn't exist right now. It's an Olearia traversii, a daisy bush native to the Chatham Islands off New Zealand. They bloom in late summer. It's October in Pennsylvania. This flower shouldn't be fresh. It shouldn't be alive." Detective Chen's radio crackled. It was the team exploring the deeper tunnels. "We've found something. Another chamber. You need to see this." They followed the tunnels deeper, into sections that didn't appear on any blueprint. The concrete gave way to older stone, suggesting these passages predated the 1920s project. How deep did they go? How old were they? The chamber they were led to was larger than the others, almost circular, with a ceiling that rose 15 feet. On the far wall, someone had carved words directly into the stone. They were old, very old, worn smooth by time and moisture. Chief Marsh read them aloud, his voice echoing, "For the town, for the harvest, for the deep." Below the words, they found a well, not filled in, not sealed, just an open shaft descending into darkness so complete their flashlights couldn't find the bottom. And around the well's edge, arranged like offerings at an altar, were more personal items: a woman's watch from the 1950s, a child's doll from perhaps the 1930s, a brooch that looked Victorian. "How deep does it go?" Agent Webb asked. Officer Rodriguez had already dropped a stone into the well. They waited in silence. 5 seconds. 10. 15. They never heard it hit bottom. The well changed everything and nothing simultaneously. It was evidence of something, but evidence of what? A serial killer's dumping ground? An ancient town secret? Something else entirely? Over the next 3 days, specialized teams descended into Hollowbrook's underworld. Cave rescue experts, FBI evidence technicians, structural engineers, even a historian from Penn State who specialized in colonial-era settlements. The tunnels, they discovered, were far older than anyone had imagined. The 1920s water project had simply rediscovered and repurposed passages that had existed since Hollowbrook's founding in 1892, and perhaps earlier. On October 31st, Halloween, though no one in Hollowbrook was celebrating, the historian, Dr. Raymond Aldrich, made a discovery in the town's founding documents. Hollowbrook hadn't been the town's original name. On maps from 1890, the site was marked as Hollowbrook Settlement, a small community established by German immigrants in 1847. That community had been abandoned in 1891. Every resident had left in a single night, according to county records. No explanation given. They'd simply walked away from their homes, their livestock, their lives. 1 year later, new settlers arrived and established Hollowbrook on the exact same site. Dr. Aldrich found something else. A diary entry from one of the original settlers, a woman named Greta Hoffman. She'd written it just days before the settlement was abandoned. The entry was in German, but Dr. Aldrich translated. "The children hear it now too, the singing from beneath. Wilhelm says we must leave. He says it is awake again. He says the 28-year sleep is ending. God forgive us for what we built our houses upon." 28 years, the cycle that Detective Chen had identified. The engineers brought equipment to explore the well. Using drones with cameras, they descended into the shaft. The walls were smooth stone, clearly worked by human hands centuries ago. At 127 feet down, the shaft opened into a larger cavity, a natural cave system that extended beneath the town. And at the bottom, in knee-deep water, they found the first body. It was old, very old. Skeletal remains still wearing the remnants of clothing from the 1800s. As the drone explored further, they found more. dozens more. Women and children, their bones arranged carefully, almost reverently in the water. But they didn't find Jennifer Patterson. They didn't find Sophia Martinez, Lily Brennan, or Hannah Price. On November 3rd, the FBI made a decision that sparked controversy for months afterward. They would flood the well and seal the tunnels. The site was structurally unsound, they claimed. It posed a danger to the investigation teams. The bodies would be recovered over time through careful excavation. Chief Marsh protested. David Patterson threatened lawsuits. The families of the missing demanded answers. But on November 4th, concrete trucks arrived in Hollowbrook, and the sealing began. That night, something strange happened across Hollowbrook. At 11:47 p.m., 17 different residents called 911 to report the same thing: singing. They heard singing coming from their basements, from their crawl spaces, from beneath their streets. A woman's voice, or many women's voices, harmonizing in a language no one recognized. Emergency responders found nothing. No source for the sounds. By midnight, the singing had stopped. On November 5th at 7:22 a.m., Jennifer Patterson walked out of the woods bordering Hollowbrook. She was wearing the same clothes she'd disappeared in 33 days earlier. She was clean, uninjured, calm. She walked down Main Street in the early morning light, her shoes making soft sounds on the pavement, until she reached her house. David answered the door in his bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, and dropped it on the porch. Jennifer smiled at him. "I'm home," she said. Within the hour, Sophia Martinez appeared at her parents' restaurant. Then Lily Brennan was found sitting on her backyard swing. Finally, Hannah Price was discovered sleeping peacefully in her own bed, though her parents swore they'd checked that room 30 minutes earlier, and it had been empty. All four were physically unharmed. Medical examinations revealed nothing unusual, no signs of imprisonment, abuse, or trauma. They were well-nourished, hydrated, clean. It was as if they'd been at a spa for a month, rather than missing and presumed dead or imprisoned. But none of them could remember anything. Jennifer Patterson's last memory was driving home from her office on October 3rd. Then nothing. Then waking up at the edge of the woods with an overwhelming urge to go home. Sophia remembered leaving the movie theater bathroom. Nothing else. Lily recalled throwing the ball for Max. Then blank. Hannah's last memory was going to bed on October 25th. She was confused about why everyone was making such a fuss. Hadn't she just been sleeping? Psychiatric evaluations revealed no signs of drugging, no evidence of suppressed memories or trauma. The women and girls genuinely seemed to have no recollection of their time missing. MRI scans, blood work, toxicology screens, all normal. It was as if those 33 days had simply been deleted from their minds. The FBI investigation continued, but with no victims to describe their captors and no crime scene left to examine, the tunnels having been sealed, there was nowhere for the investigation to go. By December 2019, federal agents began leaving Hollowbrook. The case remained open, but went cold. Chief Marsh retired in January 2020. He told friends he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd stopped something, but also that they'd failed to understand what they'd really found beneath Hollowbrook. Detective Chen published a paper on the case in 2021, proposing that some kind of elaborate cult had operated in Hollowbrook for over a century, using the tunnels as a base. She speculated that when the tunnels were sealed, the cult's leaders had no choice but to release their captives and disappear. It was the most rational explanation, though it left countless questions unanswered. Dr. Aldrich, the historian, published a book in 2022 called American Gothic: The Hidden Hollows Beneath Our Towns. In it, he documented similar disappearance patterns in 7 other small American towns, all with similar geological features and all with unexplained tunnel systems. All the towns had been built on sites of previous settlements that had been mysteriously abandoned. His book was dismissed by most academics as sensationalist. Life in Hollowbrook slowly returned to normal. The Patterson family moved to Ohio in 2020. The Martinez family closed their restaurant and relocated to Texas. The Brennan and Price families stayed, though they kept to themselves and rarely discussed the events of October 2019. The town removed the missing person posters that had papered every surface. The news crews departed. The true crime podcasters found new mysteries to obsess over. The story of the vanishing of Hollowbrook became another entry in the catalogue of America's unsolved mysteries. But some things changed. Dogs won't go near the old water treatment plant where the tunnel entrance was sealed. The woods where Jennifer Patterson emerged remain unusually quiet. No birds, no wildlife. And during heavy rains, some residents swear they can still hear something beneath their houses, not singing exactly, humming. What happened in Hollowbrook during October 2019? The official explanation, a cult operating in secret for over a century, raises more questions than it answers. How does a cult maintain secrecy in a small town for generations? How were the victims kept with zero evidence of captivity? Why release them with perfect health and no memories? Why the 28-year cycle? Some researchers have pointed to the geological surveys conducted after the incident. Hollowbrook sits above a massive limestone cave system, one of the largest undocumented systems in Pennsylvania. These caves contain underground streams, chambers large enough to hold houses, and passages that connect to cave systems dozens of miles away. What was found beneath Hollowbrook was likely just the tip of a vast subterranean world. Others focus on the historical pattern, the Hollowbrook settlement, abandoned in 1891. A German phrase Dr. Aldrich found in other documents, der tiefe Handel, the deep bargain, references in old letters to keeping the peace with what sleeps below. Were the original settlers of this land aware of something? Had they made some agreement, performed some ritual that their descendants continued?